The new Sony FX2 is in some hot water. Jarrell.
Are they in hot water?
I think the camera is in hot
water. The camera's in hot water. Okay.
I think the camera is in hot water. Chad, if you weren't here last week we talked about the Sony FX2, and in a very real way, it was sort of not a throwaway story for us, but it wasn't like the highlight story of the episode. We also weren't really sure, we got some specs on it, and we were pretty excited about some of the specs we saw, but in a very real way, this camera seems to have triggered the entire creative community.
Yes.
Sony shooters and non-Sony shooters. And we posted our clip talking about, our whole segment that we did last week. And that clip has gone on to do very well. Lots of views on it or whatever from that standard. But the amount of comments that we received and the most passionate comments that we received about this really has me super, worried about Sony at this point. Because the way people were talking about this FX2 release did I spell something wrong? Y'all say Sony is in hot water. I said the Sony FX2 is in hot water. Y'all are saying no, Sony is in hot water. Is this camera potentially a defining moment that could almost hurt Sony in a very real way? Because I remember back in the day when Canon was everyone was like, Canon, release some mirrorless cameras, release some mirrorless cameras, release some mirrorless cameras. And I remember in a very weird time, they released the 90D, which came after the 60D, the 70D, the 80D. And when everybody was screaming, go mirrorless, go mirrorless, go mirrorless, they gave us a 90D. And I remember being a Canon shooter in that heyday, thinking, seriously, again? And then even when the 1DX Mark IV came out, it was another one of those situations where it's like, really? We're doing another DSLR right now? I wonder, with this new camera, this FX2 coming out, could this be a defining moment where people finally are like, all right, you're not listening to us?
Do you know what's so crazy? I didn't necessarily think that Sony was going to be in hot water until I watched Armando's video where he did the low light test between the S12 and the FX3. And honest to goodness, the FX3, incredible camera, still used by so many people. Still $4,000. Still an incredible camera, no need to gas it. But side by side, now we still don't have our copy of the S12.
Yeah.
We don't have it yet. But
the pause was insane.
But looking at the side by side, now we don't know if Armando went scientific, same lenses, blah, blah, blah. What timeline did he use? We don't know. But oh my gosh, the FX3 showed its age. And the reason why now I feel like Sony may possibly be in hot water is the FX2 was probably been in the pipeline for how many years? 1, 2, 3 years?
At least 2 years, yeah.
At least 2 years. And so, oh my goodness, if this just happened to be it wasn't even meant to be this is our next best offering. This just was meant to be the next step in the chain.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden it's like, dang, you came out after, Canon drops its new cameras, Lumix drops its new cameras, and you just happen to be in that weird in-between phase. You might be in hot water. I don't know.
Yeah, it's not even necessarily my opinions on the camera, because the truth is that if you think about the A7 IV, right, it is a great camera. It has some readout issues. I personally,
little jelly.
When I reviewed it, man, I don't even know how many years ago. When I reviewed it, it had some issues, right? And so naturally, you would expect there to be a improved version of that, the A7 V, right? But if we're taking this same sensor and we're putting it into an FX body, which clearly the FX body is in my opinion, is my favorite like design for a cinema camera at this point. When you look at going from an A7 IV and you say, how do I make a better A7 IV? If you stick it into an FX body, you should fix a lot of these issues, right? We should see a camera that naturally, you know, can have faster readouts because now there's a fan in there, so it won't overheat nearly as much. You get the better design for video, as we talked about with all the different mounting points. And the rumors are currently pointing to implementing an EVF in some manner. I have not seen the actual camera, which would be dope because a lot of people talk about how the FX cameras don't have EVS and they really wish it did, or a way to do it. Now you're getting it. So it seems like if you're a fan of the A7 IV, you're a Sony fan, you see a FX2, which is basically a better version of the A7 IV, you should be excited. But for whatever reason, it doesn't feel like people are having that response to the camera.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it has to do with just the fact of it's a repurposed sensor. And so naturally you go, okay, well, a repurposed sensor, it's not going to be that good. I'm going to tell y'all right now, as far as I'm concerned, my original thoughts when it came to sensor defines camera is gone. I don't feel the same way because what I saw Nikon do with the Z6 Mark III sensor, Z6 III? Yeah, Z6 III, and that sensor. And obviously they did what they did to get it to a certain price point. And then to see Lumix take that exact same sensor, and now that sensor, based off of Armando's video, which we haven't, you know, we haven't done our own tests. But based off Armando's video, that sensor goes toe-to-toe with the FX3 in low-light performance. What this tells me, personally, is that there is more to a camera than just the sensor. The body plays a big difference. The processing takes a big difference. And then the way the manufacturer chooses to tweak said sensor makes a huge difference. So just because Sony is repurposing the A7 IV sensor into the FX2, I don't think that guarantees that it's going to be a bad camera. I think that actually means like we might actually get a pretty decent camera. Now, yes, 4K 60 crop is something that sucks.
Question though.
Yeah.
The difference was Nikon had the Z6 III.
Yeah.
But Lumix had a completely different philosophy.
Yes.
Of how they wanted to implement that sensor.
Yeah.
Is Sony going to have a completely different philosophy from one to the other? Considering they're the same company.
So I think they can, only because now they can actually get more out of it. Like, I think what a lot of people fail to like really understand is like there's so much that goes into these cameras. And like, don't get me wrong, I'm not an engineer. Like, I'm no scientist. I don't know how to build a camera from scratch. But what I do know is that space, heat dissipation, that's what I was looking for. Heat dissipation, and then like even down to the cards that are being used, all of that drastically changes what you can pull out of a camera. And so with this FX2, I personally thought that like there's a lot of wins from it. Is it a camera that I'm personally going to consider picking up? Probably not. Like, I don't think I will. But like seeing all this progression, even what we could then also like maybe forecast for an FX3 Mark II, I thought like, oh, this will be a positive thing, but people have just not really been kind of feeling that same way.
Definitely.
And it's wild because like, it's not only like responses to videos, but like, if you look like Terry, they're saying your mic's a little hot. I'm gonna pull you down. But like Terry's video even said like Terry's video did really well with him talking about like some of his concerns with his camera.
Yeah.
I'm just really interested to see what happens. Hey, thanks so much for checking out this video. If you enjoyed it, do me a huge favor. Hit that subscribe button. It's absolutely free, and you're not going to want to miss any other content we have on this channel. And if you did not enjoy this video, you probably shoot Sony. So that's all I'm going to say.